HiSec Buyback offers a 90% JITA anywhere in HiSec. Simply go to hisec.evebuyback.com, appraise your items, create a contract, and get paid quickly.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talking in Stations. I'm your host, Rahne, and I'm joined by Artemis, my engineer and guest for today. Hi Artemis, how are you?
I am doing very well, thank you.
Alrighty, and so another week. Those of you will know today is Monday. We did not do a show yesterday. I was busy with real life. And so obviously we're doing it now on Monday to make up for that, but hopefully we return to our normal scheduled programs on Sunday. So apologies to our European folks, as this is now like later US time zones, so they are not able to watch live. But we're going to kick it off with some player news update. Artemis, you are currently showing the stuff in the north.
Let's go to Llama first.
Let's do Llama? Okay. So there's a big fight in Llama. Normally, I feel like I've been desensitized to big fights, but this one actually was, 400 billion? So like an actual large fight, but only 300 people. So Llama's a system in lowsec, so not null, but it was, what would you say, homed by Wrecking Crew. So RC, and then Deep Water hooligans and a bunch of friends came in, started fighting, bashing structures, and a massive fight ensued.
The thing that caught my eye with this is all the Zernitra. Like, these are pirate faction dreadnoughts. They are super expensive. Like, you can see 20 to 15 to 20 bill for the ones that died, and that's like Z-kill prices, which are the best you're gonna get, but still. Like, just tons of dreads and also tons of Zernitras. Made me very happy.
Yeah. I think somebody pointed out that the Zernitras, you normally, like, they're not good for a dread because dreads kill things so fast and the Zernitra takes ramp up. But I also heard, I don't know if this was how it was correctly stated, but they said people would shoot things and then jump into the Zernitra to, like, just get on kills and whatnot, or they waited till the end to bring them out, which, like, I can see why people want to do that to pad their kill boards, but at the same time, like, we obviously have losses on one side, so people, like, having, like, swinging big balls around, showing off their deep wallets with some of those dreads.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also been something where this fight was over a structure timer, and we've been getting updates from the Wrecking Crew side, where they're talking about sort of other structures they have in the area, and how Deepwater hooligans had been doing some timers, putting up structures of their own to potentially make an assault. I believe there is a keep star in this system, but it seems like all of the further attempts at starting a fight have not escalated to anywhere near this degree. And I believe the Deepwater hooligan structure in the system is actually destroyed. I'll have to search on Z-kill, see if I can find that lost man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, usually if you have one big fight like that, people are raring to go to get in that fight, but it was severely one-sided, it looks like, based on the losses. So I'm guessing people not wanting to commit their assets like that again.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like the Deepwater hooligans Fortizar they tried to anchor died on the 9th.
Alright, so that was late last week. So not too long ago, but yeah, I'm not sure the significance of Llama. I mean, I know RC lives there, but I don't know why Deepwater would be there. I've seen them before, but usually I've seen them referenced in, like, nullsec fights.
I agree, yeah. I didn't imagine seeing them here either, but I suppose, like, with dock workers and, like, their crew being gone, it sort of leaves a void, if you will, for this kind of dread-dropping low-sec group that isn't Shadow Cartel or Snuffed Out.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff though. Oh wow, okay, so still a ton of losses on both sides actually. That's impressive. It definitely looks like a low sec fight though, given some of these ships and then probably some of the pods. I don't know if we had a lot of folks losing pods, but usually low sec fights have blingy pods.
Hopefully, because it was in low-sec, they didn't lose their pods, because that would be disastrous.
Yeah, but it'd be such an expensive... Oh, they did lose a lot of pods. I don't know if they were
yes.
blingy.
15 bill worth of pods on the RC side.
That's those implants. That's worth it.
Come on, guys, you gotta warp those pods off. It's low-sec, there are no bubbles. Maybe they were getting smart bombed or something.
That is a strategy of, like, what is it, just like a battleship sitting in the middle of everything, just smart bombing. And then usually you have stuff that's like caught, by Hicks or anything else. So it makes a lot of sense for some of those to potentially have smart bombs to try and get those. Or actually gates. You could also have gates too. People sit between structures or gates of the fight and just smart bombing pods as they warp out.
I remember back when I used to fly in lowsec pretty regularly for like solo PvP. Like there would be characters that you would watch for in local because you knew they were flying a cloaky Proteus, then they would just like sit on the various faction warfare beacons waiting for a fight to happen, and then a pod would show up, and then they'd warp off to whatever gate they thought you were going to and try and catch your pod. You just have to watch for the character.
Yeah, no, it's a good strategy. I think those people like half the time. So what is it? Was it the Halloween event? There was one event where they had pods drop implants.
Yes.
And like those guys probably made so much money farming those pods.
Them and high-sec gankers. Because of all of the high-sec people who just like were unaware of the event. And so they'd be autopiloting their capsule and just, yeah.
Yeah, normally, I mean, like if you're going to gank in high-sec, you usually commit to that. And like pods are never that commitment, right? And so it makes a lot of sense if they didn't know or whatever. You can get some
people
payoff.
Do it. Not for just like as a griefing and killboard padding tactic. Like if you ever fly a leopard around in high sec, it's not valuable if you kill it, but it is it's a high value ship because they were limited edition. So people will like sit with thrashers and kill them if they can. Same thing with pods. Just some people do it for kicks and for griefing.
That's pretty funny. I don't see the point, especially like with how tedious ganking is, but I get it if people want to have their fun. So we may have more with this llama. This is just one battle report and probably a grand scheme of things, but we may have more in the future to talk about here, especially if there continue to be fights. If this is just like a flash in the pan or whatever, then we may not touch on it anymore unless like something results later on. But hopefully we see more, especially as faction warfare, hint hint wink wink, is going to get some pretty big attention coming up.
Hopefully so. Alright, what are we on to next?
Southern War. We talked about this a couple weekends ago, maybe a little more.
I believe it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I think that was when Imperium announced the retreat, so they are doing move ops to like physically retreat. And then this week, so Fire Company and Allies, so a lot of folks were down there. So Horde and CPL were all down there to support Fire, and they've announced their return home. I think there's been a lot of stuff dying there as well. I know Imperium just kind of up and left, so a lot of like burning of structures, taking over those moons again. I would say probably all uncontested structure bashes, so probably not the most engaging thing, but it still kills for people who like kills.
What were those regions that were contested again? So we're looking at Tenerifis, Amensi, and Faith Abalis. Let me just see what the structure losses are like.
Watching you do this, but yeah.
Oh yeah, lots of decry structures dying in Tenerifis.
And like, if you look at some of those numbers, it's not like, it looks like pretty uncontested, like 40 people just to bash a structure. Well, there's like a bigger one.
Yeah, it looks like the only time you're getting 100 plus is for Fortizars, which makes sense. And then what was the last one? Immense.
Yeah.
This one has some bigger stuff with lots of forts, but nothing has died this month, which is strange. Immensity would seem to be a big focus near the end of the war. So I'm surprised. Well, that would make sense why there are fewer Imperium and RMC owned like small structures there, because that territory certainly was not held for long.
Yeah, and then where was Imperium staging out? Were they in Ketch? Were they in the old Brave system?
I believe this was their staging Keepstar, yes, in Ketch, but it wasn't Head GP, it was GE. Oh yeah, that was Brave system. Thinking of a different time in Brave, but GE Tech, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's kind of the end. I'm assuming they saved the Keepstars for last. I really don't know. Like, I don't know the strategy now, especially when it's all uncontested. I figured just shoot everything at once, but...
To my understanding, this is like the only keep star that needed killing. There were lots of Fortidars dropped, but not many keep stars. And it could also be a situation like we saw post-Vietnam, where the defenders would rather sell the structures off, and probably the people who are taking back their space would want to purchase the structures in place as opposed to having to kill and replace. So there might be some sales of structures happening as well, but not really sure.
Yeah, and we wouldn't see those either because that transitions without, like, I think any public record or anything along those lines.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, war in the South all over. It just sounds like everyone's going home. I think 2 weeks ago we talked about like what would Fire do, right? Because I think it was Fire and then Wrong and a few other groups that still kind of live in the area. So it's not really sure if people are going to come back and rehab it or if it's just going to kind of be a wasteland for a little bit.
I would be very surprised if Fireco doesn't like start putting infrastructure back up. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same density or size of infrastructure as they used to have, but I can't imagine that it would be left as just wasteland. People have plenty of need for additional space, be it to just like stick renters in or plant their flag.
Yeah, for sure. And now the war in the North. I know we were supposed to do a follow-up show about this, but I haven't really heard a lot of big news. But so for a recap, Fraternity is fighting against Brave and Volta. And by Brave and Volta, I mean there's probably a bunch of friends that they have, and then Fraternity is also including a bunch of friends.
Yes, it's the Greater Trash Community.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I thought it was Coalition.
GTC. Let's see, there's a lot of confusion there. I swear to God, they're just trolling the S, because you'll say community, and then they'll correct you, oh no, it's coalition. And then you'll say coalition, and then they'll correct you and say, oh no, it's community. I swear to God, it's just a massive troll. But
oh, man.
The last time I was corrected, it was community.
Alrighty, so they're up there fighting. I have heard of like quote-unquote CTAs being pinged between both groups, but in terms of like massive battle reports or like big shifting of the war, I haven't seen anything. So I think it's kind of a stalemate at the moment. I mean, obviously we have the time zone differences because I think Volt is mostly European, Brave's mostly American, and then Fraternity obviously mostly AU time zone. But at the same time, it's like they declare war, they got to do something against each other. Like, what's the point of declaring war if you're not going to fight?
Well, I mean, there are different ways of fighting, and there's different intensities of fighting. So early on, we were seeing lots of like skirmishes and battle reports because there were soft timers happening. So you'd have waves of troll toasting, which in and of themselves can spur like kind of small gang action. And then you're going to have like any fights over the timers when they come out. We're seeing significantly less of that toasting happening. In fact, not a single sovereignty timer has happened, like specifically in Pureblind, which has been sort of the epicenter of action here since like in September. So it seems that sort of action and content was determined just not worth the effort by the attackers, by Fraternity. So they stopped. And instead what they're focusing on is structures. So they're reinforcing structures and trying to push that. But as you mentioned, due to the time zone difference and the fact that the defenders can set their citadels to come out at a certain time after reinforced, it's going to be very difficult for sort of all the stars to align such that both groups think, okay, there's a good chance that we can make this happen. Worst case scenario for the defenders is that they aren't able to form up enough people and so their structures are just dying uncontested. But in fact, we're not kind of seeing that. In fact, we're seeing nothing is dying right now. For a little bit back in August, we had a couple of Fraternity structures dying as well. So stalemate is a perfect way to describe this due to that time zone interaction between them and the focus specifically on structures here.
Yeah, so hopefully I'm expecting something to eventually happen, like maybe they, I don't know, get like more motivation, I guess, to fight. Or maybe they'll just be like, hey guys, this is boring, let's go home. Because I think if it fizzles out, like without any sort of clear end, it's going to be really obnoxious for both groups, right? Like they're going to say like, oh, we're at war, but we're not really doing anything. Like we're not defending, we're not attacking. What do we do?
The weird thing is that Fraternity didn't move any staging for this as I understand it. Like they're staging from their home system. They just have an Ansiblex connection directly from Tribute over to here in Pureblind. And for the record, like, they have gained 2 solve systems in Pureblind throughout the course of the war, but that's kind of it. So they didn't have to move. Theoretically, Fraternity could sort of maintain at war for as long as they want. They just determine how intense that war is by like how many fleets they're sending across, or how organized they are, or if they're committing capital assets to fights. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the end of this war will be found regardless. Like, it's never going to go on permanently, because when Fraternity doesn't want to commit anymore, the Defenders definitely want to get their infrastructure out of this space to make it harder for Fraternity to try again. So once Fraternity has given up, so to speak, or lost the manpower to be able to keep up the defense of their structures, then I think it'll be a good place to call it an end.
Yeah, so hopefully we see. I want to see something soon. I always like fights. Now that the war in the South is gone, it's like we need something to tie us over to our next topic, the expansion.
Indeed. And in fact, we've got a timeline for it too. So we want to like go through the timeline, then dig into the details.
Yeah, is this a roadmap that everyone's been asking for years that CCP is always hesitant to put out? So right here, so CCP has kind of outlined, a lot of folks have asked. So at FanFest, we received the Faction Warfare revamp, update, refresh, I don't know what you want to call it. And they shared that it was going to happen in, quote, Q4 2022. Q4 and the calendar 2022 is December, November, October. October being like 3 weeks away. So a lot of folks have been asking like, hey, CCP, what does this mean? What should we expect? So CCP actually came out and put out a timeline. So here in September, we have new ships. I think there has been a lot of talk of potentially, what is it, Navy or faction destroyers. I think that was like kind of leaked or shared by CCP. So folks are predicting that. In October, they're going to do more, I wouldn't say updates, but they're not like gameplay updates. It's more of like quality of life updates, the audio visual UI. And they've been working on Photon UI, as we all know. And so that'll be in October, and then actually November is where like the real meat and potatoes is of the update. That's where the Faction Warfare revamp, I think, is going to actually come to fruition. Probably a big update on that day. If anyone has seen those updates before, it usually creates like longer downtime, and then there's always like tons of bugs, and people are like, what is happening? And it's chaos. But that's where the actual revamp's going to come. And I think that's what everyone's been waiting for. I shouldn't say everyone. Some people don't care for it. But I have personally been waiting for it. I am stoked. I don't care if I even fly with an alliance or a faction. I'm just going to go there and fly and fight people. But that's the excitement that's coming.
For sure. So in September, like, we've got sort of the arcs. So if you're an RPer or you like to dig into the details and stuff going on there, like that's where the content is going to be, and you're going to be discovering what's coming in Uprising, which is awesome. Love that, especially hearing about new ships, because people have been asking for content forever. October, I kind of want Walking in Stations back, okay? The new trailer, and I'm going to play it here for a moment. The new trailer has like all the characters sort of standing in their stations and going down to their and I really, really want to have this back. Like, I want to be able to go down an elevator and see my hangar and see my ships in there. Like, that would be really cool. We know for sure we are getting like the new revamped hangars and everything and those sorts of visuals, but the way they keep highlighting Walking in Stations makes me think it's coming back, or makes me want it to come back. What about you?
I really like this music in this, so I want to be quiet. But yeah, no, I 100% agree. Even like pulse bar and references and stuff like that, super critical for like CCP sharing all of it.
Who is this guy, by the way, or person? Who is this individual with the hood?
I don't know, but it looks like they're so they're standing on a planet. I'm assuming that's not a station, and then they're looking at the sun. It looks like a bluish sun. I don't know if this is like a Triglavian reference where, you know, like we've had all this stuff with the Triglavian arcs, or are they called like Triglavian arcs? The one where it's like all the factions are fighting over these new Triglavian stations or whatever that are showing up in space. I feel like it's a reference to that.
Okay, we've got a member of chat who says they have solved the trailer. It's about Space Gandalf, a fitting wizard who has been hiding planetside, who will return to us and use fitting magic to let us fit hams to eagles. appreciate that bit of lore there. The people who are wondering what's going on with hams to eagles, a lot of people are looking at the earlier footage of the ships in the thing, and then also later on in this where there's a fight scene, and there's an eagle that's firing ham missile launchers. Which, for the record, I've seen lots of discussion about this, like, oh my goodness, the trailer creators don't play EVE. Counter arguments, the vast majority of people who play EVE don't know how to fit their ships, and this is actually a more accurate portrayal of how players play EVE.
That's so true. A lot of people, and I've heard CCP give this argument in the past, right? Like, they're looking more when they show these trailers, and it's almost always like, oh, there's some gameplay element to it. They're always looking for something that looks cool to an audience. And I remember the example was like a Ragnarok, and it showed the fit, and it was like the dumbest fit, and people were like, why would you fit your Ragnarok like that? And CCP's like, no, we want to show the variety of icons that people are going to be clicking because then it looks cool to them. Instead of just like, hey guys, here's my super cool ship. It has 3 buttons because here's the micro warp drive and here's the guns. It's like, yeah, man, that's like not cool at all. So I get why people like hardcore nerds are like, oh, that fucking isn't right. Like, but to a common man who's like, yeah, man, I kind of want to check out EVE. Oh, there's this new trailer. Like, that looks cool to them. Like, missiles launching from a ship, super cool. A gun going pew pew, not as cool.
I mean, if you get like the classic apocalypse with the rainbow lasers, right? Different colored crystals in every gun, like that looks cool. I like that.
Yeah, it can't. And the purposes, I think, in this trailer, though, it would not be as cool.
This is true. All right. Let's talk about what's coming in Uprising, then. Let's dig into this stuff. Or actually, before that, a quick note. So with the Faction Warfare update, there's all the changes to the Faction Warfare system itself, and then there's the Allegiances system, which a ton of people, us included, were excited about for sort of a different mechanism for non-Faction Warfare players to interact with that war zone in a meaningful way. And that is targeted for Q1 2023. So as you hear us talking about like Uprising update, Faction Warfare changes that are coming, just remember those allegiances are coming Q1 2023.
I've heard some people being really upset about that, but I love it. I feel like if you are not dedicated to Faction Warfare, you do not get to partake in the joy of an immediate update for it. So I think this is a way to give people, like, I think of like Arcia, right? Like, she's always on here talking about Faction Warfare and her participation, and all these other groups like Urshikan and whatnot, like these massive corps and alliances that have been playing Faction Warfare for years who have been begging for this update. They get to enjoy it before normies like me who sit out in nullsec or just are a pirate in lowsec before we can partake, and I'm perfectly okay with that. If that bothers you, roll an alt or leave your stupid alliance and join Faction Warfare.
All right, I love it. Okay.
I don't want to hear any complaints about it.
So we start off with some lore stuff, which is epic, but means I have no idea what it means. It's talking about Athenon, which I believe was recently a target system in like one of the Faction Warfare email spams. It was like, hey, go focus on this system. And so now there's like mysterious constructions happening. In fact, there's a video we'll talk about a bit later from the community beat where somebody dives into that from a lore perspective and what's so there's that coming, and then we've got like new ships that they confirm are coming through as well, and then the Faction Warfare updates that were discussed in the previous State of the Union news items. So we're talking like the whole frontline, backline, command center paradigm, if you will.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I'm excited as heck for it. Did they make mention of heraldry? That's the only thing I can think of that is Faction Warfare, but yes. And so I feel like that's going to come out, but it is bigger than Faction Warfare. So this is like the upgrades to your ships, all cosmetic type stuff. And I think that's something that, I mean, yeah, it can impact Faction Warfare, but you can do that with stuff beyond Faction Warfare too. And I think that was the intent for CCP. So this will be good to see how that actually plays out and what you can do with it.
Absolutely. And we already saw like in the trailer itself and confirms that you're going to be able to put your corporation and alliance logos onto skins onto your ships. And I think they even mentioned Citadel skins coming in the future, which will be cool. So those Citadel skins aren't launching with heraldry, they aren't launching in Uprising, but they've said they're trying in the future again.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything super fancy with this. Like, I would expect maybe like corporation skins are already assets in the game, so I could expect them to maybe play around with that without, messing up player alliance skins. So I'm excited to see kind of how they do it, but I have a feeling it's not going to be as big at first. So that kind of makes me sad, but at the same time, I'd rather at least get it right instead of like, hey guys, here's your skin, and then it's like the default logo. Like that. Sometimes we see the bug on certain things, like on Citadels, it's just the default logo sometimes.
Absolutely. One thing I'm super curious about is during FanFest when they were talking about how this heraldry system would work, they focused on earning heraldry points or whatever they're called, interbus credits, there we go. Earning interbus credits to purchase heraldry through their made by players for players program. So this is sort of a response to that controversy we had about selling retrievers in the mining packs. And they're like, it's okay, everything will just be made by players going forward. So like the details of how that program is going to work are super important. There are lots of people looking forward to dig into that. I'm surprised that, like, to my knowledge, I'll do a search real quick, but there's been zero mention of interbus credits or that program in this dev blog or anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm not quite, because I remember that topic too, but I don't think they've expanded on it. I don't know if it's been discussed amongst like the player base a lot. I feel like that's super important, and like that's also a way for heraldry to go outside of faction warfare, right? Like if you're in alliance, you say, hey guys, go mine me some ore and give it back to me or whatever, and then you get points, or I don't know how it's going to be gamed and whatnot, but that's super important if you're, if you want to fly your colors but you don't want to partake in faction warfare.
Absolutely. And I mean, maybe they just roll out the heraldry for testing without introducing the whole interbus credit system and migrate it later. Could be a way to do it. I'm not sure. It's just curious that it's absent from this dev blog.
Yeah, and I mean they're coming out with the allegiance stuff in Q1 2023, so hopefully like maybe sometime in Q4 we get a bigger, or not a bigger, like an expanded roadmap of like, hey, here's the stuff we've been working on, here's the stuff that's still coming that you're all asking questions about.
And then also in Q4 we've got the Alliance tournament, a thing that we failed to mention when we were looking at this graphic, but that's what this is. The Alliance tournament is happening in November. Going to be awesome. Don't forget about that, but I just remembered we forgot about it.
Yeah, so the one thing that's important, I think, so that this dev blog kind of touched on with faction, or not faction warfare, the Alliance tournament, is so there's new ships, and Zalus has said, no, the new ships are not going to be allowed in the Alliance tournament. So no matter how, like, amazing these new ships are or weak that they are, they're not going to be allowed. And I think that's deliberate because CCP, like, there's not a lot of time, so it's a huge other factor. CCP is probably unable to balance it right because every new ship they come out with always has like some issue of like balancing overpowered or underpowered. So they don't want to affect that and give more stress to the players. But they have said that any sort of balance patch, so whether that's the Eagle getting missiles or not, will be allowed for the tournament. As far as I know, both the trials and the Alliance tournament. So if they do like another T3C rebalance or they upgrade the Eagle or any of that, then that will actually be applied to the tournament. Players can't play on the tournament with like a old patch or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the way they've done the rules. I think one of the smartest changes they made in recent years is doing like individual point cost by ship. So like some ships are particularly powerful, like the lowsec is way, way, way more powerful than some of the other pirate faction battleships in the context of the tournament. So they'll charge more for that ship in particular. And you just don't have time to see how powerful something is going to be to assign that specific point value before going into the tournament. It's one of the best changes they've made in recent years, getting the folks from Event in and getting a lot of smart like theory crafters in there to make sure it's an even playing field and doesn't get stale.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's actually a change that players made to their player ran tournaments, and CCP was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. The other rule that they had was like, so to avoid multiples of ships, they limit it. But then what they've also done is say, okay, if you have multiples of these ships, we're going to increase the point value. So it was either the ship type, so like a destroyer class or whatever, or it was a specific ship, so like a Talwar or a Thrasher if you had multiple. they didn't increase the points. So that was something actually brought about by players too. So if you guys think players don't affect things, they definitely do. Alliance Tournament is one of them.
All right, and of course the art team doing what they do, just giving us awesome visuals to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm actually stoked. So like if you notice what was it, October had like all of the audio and UI updates, and the art updates was one of them. And I'm wondering if that's an anticipation for all of the heraldry stuff coming out. And I feel like even if it was super minor and we couldn't see it right away, it'd still be amazing.
Absolutely. And one thing we forgot to mention coming during October was Halloween Horrors, which is always a fun event. I think it was the first event back when it was the Crimson Harvest. That was one of the first like big themed events that we had, and that's when players first fell in love with the idea of doing these sorts of events where you go out to event sites and having those sorts of things. So it's always lovely to see that come back, and we get the avatars with the pumpkin face and fantastic colors on our ships and everything like that.
Yeah, I'm really glad CCP has started doing that. I feel like, I don't know, I love seasonal events. Like, no matter what game I'm playing, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, Valentine's Day? I hate it as a holiday, but let's go collect heart skins and all this and that. And then I really want CCP to do more. Sorry, my cat is very confused. So CCP for the Halloween event, they actually had like the pumpkin, I think it was the pumpkin Rex. And I think that's the first time we've ever seen them like modify Rex. And I want them to do that for other things, like, I don't know, you can get a heart wreck for Valentine's Day or a snowflake wreck for Christmas or something like that. That would be
epic.
Yeah, and I want them to do more. I don't know how much effort it is, but maybe that art team will update it for us.
Poor art team, always getting like things thrust upon them, and then people are just like, oh, it's only art that's coming out.
See, you say that, like, I feel like nobody hates on the art team unless they make, like, the only exception is if they're making like ship upgrades and people don't like it. But like the art team can do like literally everything, and players will like hold it to like CCP. Like the art team will be like, hey guys, Angel Titans, and everyone's like, yes, those are coming out, right? And the rest of the devs are like, we are not planning anything related to the Angel Cartel. And I feel so bad for the rest of the devs because the art team could just do whatever, and it's amazing.
Fair point.
Yeah.
All right. While we were talking about the Halloween haunt or what have you, and we actually just got the results from the most recent event week, barring GM week. There was no like player competition there, just a ton of fun activity. But for the Caldari Union, we did get the rewards and the prizes and the participation, and we found out that, who was it? The Wirkomi. So that's the specific corporation within Caldari who won the thing. What are the percentages? It was super close.
That's really close. Holy cow.
Did he give an exact number of like participation points that it was different, or did he just give the percentages?
I think it looks like just the percentages. And then I know for Minmatar they got a station named after them. Did the Caldari get anything similar?
They mentioned that specifically what they're getting is a monument, yes, outside of Jita 4-4, plus some like security ships. And then the top 100 characters who participated for all of the Megacorps, not just the one that won, are going to be getting a special medal on their character sheet from the CEO saying, hey, you were awesome for our corporation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does stuff like that. That's super cool.
I have no idea what this art is from, though.
Is that the monument? That might be the monument.
That would be cool. That doesn't look like the background for Jita, though. Am I insane, or is that not the nebula in Jita? Like the red back there?
Oh, no, definitely not. And I think the planet, so Jita's planet's really close to it.
Yeah, so that's not Jita. I have no idea where that is. Somebody who knows this kind of stuff will have to correct us in the YouTube comments later, or come to our Discord and yell at us. That's cool, too.
This is why, if you just say the wrong thing, then you always get corrected. It's the best.
Exactly. Alright, so we covered that bit. We've kind of segued into the community beat. So before we dig further into that, are there things with Uprising you want to talk about?
No, I'm just really excited about Uprising. Like, super stoked.
Absolutely. Especially like players coming back for Uprising, I think is what I'm most excited for. With faction warfare and with lowsec and people trying new things. Like there are some events where it's changing the way an existing structure works, which just means the players who are currently doing it just do it in a different way. But I feel like this faction warfare update, it is changing an existing system, but it's doing it in a way that will attract players from other areas of EVE, which is super exciting.
Yeah, I think in my grand scheme of playing EVE, I think the big expansions I've had, like there have been a lot of expansions, but the one that felt the most fundamental before this was probably the Citadel one when they released Citadels. And so like this one actually feels like, yeah, all brand new. So that's why like my warning to people of like, hey, stuff's going to be crazy on patch day. So it feels like we haven't had that in a while. Like we've had some patch days where it's like, oh yeah, it takes a little longer or like there's bugs, but they're not like groundbreaking. And so this one feels like it's probably like if something goes ever so slightly wrong, it's going to be like, oh great, team, we got to like wait a whole day. And I don't think players are going to be ready for that.
I mean, they never are, so it's okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, the
right.
community beat. I love the fact that CCP does their community beat. It's always exciting to read every week.
And what I loved about this one, it was not just focused on stuff the players are doing, which is great, but also where specifically the players were interacting with the in-game events. Because it was always difficult, like, if I wanted to go back and figure out who won the Minmatar thing, it was kind of hard for me to find that out. But now that they're putting it in Community Beat, like, that's exactly where I would think to look for it. I just never knew that's where I wanted it before. So it's cool that that's where they put the winners, and they've got this video that some player did about the Union Day and the construction projects that are part of this arc that's happening, which is sort of going to introduce the new ships and introduce the new faction warfare changes.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I haven't watched this one. Is it worth watching? Is it like super long?
It's only 2 minutes and 40 seconds. No, it's good.
Nice. It also says ASMR. That's great.
I don't think that's that. I mean, maybe a double entendre there or something, but
Yeah, it looks like it's probably a corp or alliance name there. That's exciting though.
all right, some stuff from GM Week. The other things that I wanted to talk about here specifically is an upcoming event. So if you're going to be playing EVE this coming week on September 17th, what day is that? Is that Saturday?
I think so. Yes, it is.
So on Saturday the 17th at 2200 UTC, one of those are Nitras. We just talked about pretty expensive dreadnoughts, pirate faction, Triglavians, super cool. They're going to be sacrificing one to Bob, who is the deity of wormhole space, and they tell you what system it's going to be in. So if you want to try and make your way here, it's a class 5. What's the statics? Class 5 with a class 5 static. So get yourself into a class 5 and just sort of go through that C5 highway and try and make your way into this specific system. It's a red giant, so be prepared for like lots of bombs and that sort of thing, and smart bombs. Like people will probably try to pipe bomb this thing if people are flying in like interceptors trying to get on the kill mail. That would be hilarious.
Man, I don't know if I'm busy that day, but that seems super tempting to go in and like sneak in and try and stream it or something.
Absolutely.
Like pad my kill board. I padded my kill board during GM week too. That was a lot of fun.
And then some other things to keep your eyes out for in the future are the player meets. And there's one in particular I want to talk about. EVE Vienna, coming up on October 15th. Oh, did we talk about EVE Northeast last week?
I don't think we talked about it last week, but I've seen some photos of it. It looked like it was a lot of fun.
Did you go? I thought you were planning on going.
No, I'm doing Vegas.
Oh, okay. Well, between the two, between EVE Northeast and when Vegas happens, we've also got EVE Vienna, and friend of the show whose name I'm going to struggle to pronounce, but I'm going to try because he's super reached out to make sure that we let everybody know about this one. Apparently it's the only remaining like sort of German speaking / focused meetup since G Fleet is no longer a thing. So if that's your area of the world, sort of the German speaking part of Europe, then go ahead and make sure you check out EVE Vienna.
Wait, why did they get rid of EVE or G Fleet?
I am unfamiliar. I'm sorry, I don't know the details. I just know it's gone.
Oh, I mean, it's probably due to COVID and, player turnover and whatnot. Like, running events is super stressful. So I linked a tweet from, oh no, now I'm going to butcher his name,
I think you got it.
Yeah, Julianus. Yeah, nice, dude. I didn't think I got that right. So Eve Northeast was where they literally go out to the boonies of the Northeast and camp. I say the boonies. It's literally just away from like cell signal and whatnot. So they just all hang out, drink, play games, have fun. It looks like a lot of fun if you're ever into the camping and the whole not sitting at a bar all weekend sort of thing.
Absolutely. Just make sure you bring bug spray.
Yes, for sure. Like, it is not fun when you have mosquitoes, and they definitely do up there. But yeah, Eve events are super critical. So you called out Eve Vienna. We talked about Eve Northeast. Vegas is coming up. That's a pretty pricey weekend in October, but if you can make it there, it's a ton of fun. CCP will actually be showing up for, I think it's the Thursday. They're doing like a dinner with an open bar, and CCP will actually show up and give a presentation. Not really sure what exactly. It's not going to be to the scale as it was before, where it was like a keynote and all that, but they're definitely going to give something to the players that showed up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Also, I guess somebody was using this as a campaign for their CSM run. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Vegas is always fun. Even if you don't go to the Eve stuff, just going and hanging out with friends in Vegas is awesome. And then Eve Down Under in November.
Such a lovely place. So many lovely people in AUTZ. If you've never flown in AUTZ before, just the people are awesome. So much fun.
I've had friends who've gone and they talk it up a lot. It's a lot of fun for folks. So if you're in that area, definitely go. I want to make it at some point. I have friends in Australia I really want to go hang out with.
And I think this one is going to be more of the Eve Vegas-esque. Like, certainly nowhere near the way Vegas used to be, because it used to be like Vegas and FanFest were the two big things. But I think it's going to be more heavy in terms of CCP participation and stuff like that. Yeah, they have player and CCP panels and stuff on Saturday. So it is absolutely going to be more like CCP support and stuff there.
They're having like a full event instead of just like, hey guys, here's one thing to do. And I believe it was CCP Larrikin is in the area, so like usually they'll send all their Australian devs. He's one of them, but they'll send all the Australian devs and whatnot down there. It's usually really easy to get in and out with COVID restrictions and whatnot. I'm not quite sure what Australia's rules are.
I don't know either. Surely they would have the details here somewhere on Eventbrite, because that's kind of important to know, but
maybe they don't have it anymore. Yeah, definitely go there. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I think that's all the things I wanted to specifically highlight from the community beats.
Yeah, I don't really have much more this week. I'm trying to think of big things that have happened that I've heard people talk about, but I don't really besides the war ending and then some of these updates, I don't really recall anything.
Yeah, so some things to look forward to next week then, I guess. We've got confirmed there was a fantastic discussion last week, Rahne. You and Nick and some of our guests had a discussion about ganking and griefing and that whole dynamic and what's okay versus not okay. And we're getting a member of one of the large ganking groups to come on and sort of contribute to that discussion from their perspective. So look forward to that guest being on next week. That'll be Sunday, September 18th, plus whatever else we find to talk about and share with you.
Yeah, and then hopefully stuff picks up in the war in the north. Otherwise, we might just do a generic update combined with another show there. And then same with the fighting that's been happening in Llama between Deepwater Hooligans and Friends and then RC. So I think those are going to be some big updates. I know. Plex prices. I think Shen was on the show talking about
MER
Plex
stuff. Yeah, we can do some MER stuff too.
That stuff's way all over my head. Like, I can just say MER is out. Please go look at it, because I do not follow that at all. But we do have folks who do, and I think that's super critical to continue to share.
Absolutely, especially a lot of people are focused on Plex prices, and they're insanely high right now. which CCP probably wants you to know there's a Plex sale going on, so if you want to make some good ISK, you can Plex if that's your thing. But lots of interest on the economy given that direct impact on players.
Yeah, and that's something that affects I want to say like a lot of the game. Like me, I don't understand it, but it still affects me whether I want to understand it or not. Oh, my cat says hello again. I was gonna say, Artemis, if you don't have anything else, I think I'm ready to close it out.
Awesome. Short, sweet, and to the point today.
Yeah, my cat says hello. If she behaves, I can pick her up and show her to you guys. But yeah, thank you, Artemis, for joining me. Thank you for those in chat. I've been trying to half read chat, half not. I've been super distracted reading all the other notes on my screen.
Definitely shout out to Stewball80 for throwing a bunch of bits our way and shouting it out. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. He's been chatting a lot. But yeah, if that's all, Artemis, we can send everyone out, and hello to our YouTubers. Hope you have a good week.